Marcus Vance never expected a pen to be the cause of a disaster that would shake the entire solar system. Yet, here he was, gripping the simple metal instrument, a keepsake from his grandfather, while standing inside the sprawling command center of Aegis 1, humanity's most advanced deep space research station. The station orbited a quiet star on the edge of explored space, a sentinel pushing the boundaries of science and exploration. Hundreds of brilliant minds worked within its walls, their experiments delicate, precise, and often dangerous. Marcus was the chief engineer, responsible for ensuring every system ran smoothly. It had been a routine day, no alarms, no anomalies. Marcus was conducting a manual check of the station's auxiliary power relays, an old procedure required to keep the system stable while the main reactors were recalibrated. The relays were controlled by a small panel of switches, each labeled with technical jargon. One switch was unresponsive, stubbornly refusing to reset electronically. Marcus needed to override it manually. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his pen, a trusty tool he used for notes and sometimes gentle prying. With practiced care, he inserted the tip into a tiny reset slot next to the switch. A faint click followed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a shudder ran through the station, warning sirens blared. Red lights flashed as Aegis 1's massive computer core began signaling critical failures. Power grids surged and sputtered. The hum of life support systems faltered. "Report," came a sharp voice over the intercom. Marcus's heart raced. He stared at the panel, his mind scrambling. The simple reset he'd attempted had triggered a chain reaction across multiple systems. The core reactors were overheating, and the station's structural integrity was rapidly degrading. Engineering to command. "We've got a cascade failure. The main grid's unstable," Marcus called out, trying to keep calm. Down the corridors, the station's crew rushed to their emergency stations. Communications scrambled to coordinate damage control. Outside the reinforced windows, the cold void awaited with eerie silence. Marcus's mind raced. How could a pen, an everyday object, cause so much damage? Within minutes, the crew was fighting a losing battle. Fire suppression systems activated in several sectors. Evacuation pods were readied. The station trembled with growing instability. A voice crackled over the comms. "This is Captain Reyes. All personnel initiate emergency code black. Prepare for evacuation." Marcus barely registered the words as he worked furiously at the relay panel, trying to isolate the failure. Sweat beaded on his forehead. The pen lay discarded on a nearby console, silent witness to the unfolding chaos around him. Lights flickered and alarms grew louder. The station's AI attempted automated repairs but kept shutting down as systems went offline one by one. Minutes turned into what felt like hours. The station that once bustled with life was now a fractured shell, drifting toward inevitable destruction. Marcus found himself in an emergency pod, strapped in and staring out at the wreckage of Aegis 1. His hands trembled as he clutched the pen again, a strange symbol of both the disaster and his stubborn will to survive. The pod launched into the void just as the station erupted in a burst of blinding light. A final, desperate release of energy, as the pod's sensors faded to black. Marcus whispered to himself, how did it come to this? Just a pen. A pen. Far away, rescue ships were dispatched. The galaxy held its breath, awaiting answers and wondering if humanity's place among the stars was as fragile as this small metal tool suggested. The rescue ship, Valiant, cut through the silent void, racing toward the coordinates of the destroyed Aegis 1. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. Commander Elena Rivas stood over the navigation console, her eyes sharp and focused. The station was gone. But one survivor had been found, and his story was as puzzling as the catastrophe itself. Marcus Vance sat quietly in a medical bay, the faint hum of the ship's systems a stark contrast to the chaos he had just escaped. His gaze was distant, haunted by the image of the station collapsing around him. The pen, the small, simple pen, felt heavy in his pocket. The ship's AI, Athena, projected a holographic reconstruction of Aegis One's final moments in the briefing room. Red lines flashed, indicating system failures spreading through the station's core. The cause, a manual override triggered by a human hand. Marcus's. Alina studied the data carefully. How could something so trivial cause this much damage? Marcus swallowed hard. I didn't mean to cause any of it. The pen was just the tool I used to reset the relay. The system should have handled it electronically. But when it didn't, I had no choice. An engineer stepped forward. We've examined the pen. It's normal, no defects. It can't have caused the failure by itself. Exactly, Marcus said. That's why I think something else was wrong. Something already fragile. Maybe the system was compromised. Alina nodded slowly. Then we need to find out what. Was this accident or sabotage? The team delved into the station's black box data, piecing together logs, sensor readings, and software diagnostics. Patterns emerged: tiny glitches, strange code snippets embedded deep within the station's operating system. Foreign signals, untraceable sources. We're looking at deliberate interference, Athena said calmly. Someone or something was tampering with the station's core. Marcus's brow furrowed. But who? Why? And how did no one notice? Alina answered grimly, because they wanted us to fail. They wanted the station gone. The room fell silent. The Aegis One had been humanity's symbol of progressant. Till now, as the rescue crew analyzed more data, a theory began to take shape. An alien faction, wary of human expansion into deep space, had infiltrated the station's systems long ago. The pen-triggered reset was just the spark that ignited their carefully placed time bomb. Marcus's accidental action had revealed a hidden vulnerability, a weakness. Designed to bring the station down at the right moment, Alina turned to Marcus. Your quick thinking saved your life. Now, your knowledge might save the rest of us. Double quotes. Marcus met her gaze with a new resolve. If they think a pen will stop humanity, they've underestimated what we can do. The investigation team worked through cycles of data and simulation. They mapped the sabotage, identifying key nodes compromised beyond repair. The station was lost, but its secrets and the path forward were still within reach. Outside the ship, distant stars twinkled silently. The universe had just whispered a warning, and humanity was listening. Alina addressed the team. We'll rebuild. We'll adapt. We'll make sure this never happens again. Marcus felt a spark of hope amid the shadows. The pen had sparked disaster. Yes, but it also ignited a determination stronger than any machine as the Valiant charted a course home. The rescue crew prepared for a mission that would test humanity's ingenuity, courage, and unity against a threat far greater than a simple malfunction. The pen was small, the consequences vast, but the human spirit was ready to write the next chapter. The hum of the Valiant's engines was a steady reminder of the long journey ahead. But the crew's minds buzzed with questions no data could fully answer. The sabotage was sophisticated far beyond the crude attempts Marcus had feared. Someone had spent months, maybe years, weaving an invisible thread of destruction through the station's systems. And only a small human action had unraveled it, deep in the ship's analysis bay. Marcus sat beside Commander Alina Rivas and cyberneticist Dr. Celine Aaron as they pored over the decoded fragments of alien code recovered from the station's black box. The alien technology was unlike anything humanity had seen. Designed to adapt and conceal itself within host systems, "This isn't just a virus," Celine explained, eyes scanning streams of shifting data. "It's adaptive. It learns, hides, and reacts. Whoever created this didn't want to just break the station, they wanted it gone without a trace." Elena's voice was steady but firm. "This means they planned the destruction carefully. Our presence was a threat." Marcus felt the weight of those words settle in his chest. The station had been more than a research outpost. It was humanity's foothold on the edge of known space, and now it was gone. Who could have done this? Marcus asked quietly. Selena's eyes narrowed. "An alien faction called the Crithans. We've detected their ships lurking near the system in recent months, always just outside detection range. They see humanity's expansion as aggressive. Sabotage like this fits their strategy perfectly." Elena leaned forward. "They want to push us out by any means necessary." Marcus clenched his fists. "But why use something so hidden? Why sabotage the systems instead of attacking outright?" Celine shook her head. "Because direct conflict would be costly for both sides. The Crithans prefer to weaken their enemies first, then strike decisively. Destroying the station was their first step." Suddenly, a message pinged through the system. Elena opened the encrypted transmission coordinates and a warning. "They're mobilizing," she said grimly. "They're preparing for more than sabotage now." The room was silent except for the faint beeping of machines and the soft rustle of data streaming across the holoscreen. Marcus's mind raced. The pen incident had been accidental, but the sabotage was deliberate. Somehow, human fallibility had exposed a hidden war. "We have to act fast," Elena said, rising to her feet. "If they want to escalate, we need to be ready." Marcus nodded. "Then it's not just about fixing what's broken. We need to understand their technology, use what we can against them." Celine's face lit with determination. "If we can analyze the alien code, perhaps we can develop countermeasures, even use their own weapons against them." Elena's gaze met Marcus's. "You know the station systems better than anyone. Your experience will be vital." Marcus felt a flicker of purpose amidst the uncertainty. The pen had destroyed Aegis I, but it had also revealed a hidden enemy. Now, humanity's survival depended on turning vulnerability into strength. Days passed in a blur of analysis, strategy, and preparation. The Valiant became a hub of innovation where human intuition met alien technology. Marcus's hands, once trembling from guilt, now moved confidently over consoles, rewriting code and repurposing salvage tech. The Crithan's shadow loomed larger with each passing hour, but so did humanity's resolve. Elena addressed the crew. "In the main hall, we stand at a crossroads. The loss of Aegis I was tragic, but it has shown us what we face. We will not retreat. We will fight not just with weapons, but with our minds, our courage, and our unity." Marcus felt the truth. In her words, the pen was small, but it had sparked a chain reaction far beyond anyone's expectations, as the Valiant prepared to enter contested space. Marcus glanced at the pen lying on the table, a simple tool, a symbol of human resilience. The war was no longer hidden. It was coming, and humanity would be ready. The tension aboard the Valiant was palpable as it neared the outer edge of the Crithan-occupied system. Sensors flickered with warnings of distant ships and unusual energy signatures. But within the ship's walls, a different kind of battle was underway. One fought not with lasers or missiles, but with ingenuity and sheer human determination. Marcus sat in the command center, eyes fixed on the holodisplay that flickered with streams of alien code and malfunctioning station schematics. He knew the Crithan sabotage wasn't just a one-time attack. Their hidden traps lurked in every corner of the station systems, designed to cripple any attempt at repair or salvage. Elena approached, her voice steady but urgent. "Marcus, We need a way to bypass their encryption. Our AI can't crack it. Maybe you can try something more old-fashioned. Marcus looked up, a slow smile forming. You mean using a human touch? Sometimes the simplest solutions don't come from machines. He reached for his pen, the same one that had unwittingly set off the disaster months ago. Holding it carefully, Marcus began outlining a plan that felt almost impossible to manually override the station's core systems using techniques from a time before automated. AI ruled every inch of technology. The Valiant's engineering bay transformed into a workshop of sorts, with salvaged parts and basic tools. Marcus and his team began building physical interface modules, simple connectors, and switches that could replace the corrupted digital controls. Why rely on manual overrides? Asked Celine, watching as Marcus soldered tiny circuits. Won't the Chthons detect and sabotage those too? Marcus shook his head. Their sabotage targets digital protocols. Physical hardware is harder to hack remotely. If we can switch to manual control, we regain power over the station. Days passed with tireless effort. Marcus trained crew members to operate the analog consoles he had rebuilt. Together, they ran simulations, manually inputting commands to bypass the digital dead zones. Meanwhile, outside the ship, Chthon warships prowled, their intentions clear and menacing. But inside, Marcus's workshop buzzed with a different energy, a spark of hope. Finally, the moment arrived. The Valiant approached the debris field where Aegis 1 once orbited. A remotely operated drone was sent first, weaving through the wreckage, transmitting images of the damaged station core. Marcus directed the team from the command center. Prepare the manual interface, we're going in. With trembling hands, he inserted the pen, his symbol of human ingenuity, to a custom-built override slot. Slowly, he began the delicate process of reactivating the station's core systems manually. The station flickered back to life. Alarms quieted. Life support hum returned. Communications channels blinked online. A collective sigh of relief filled. The Valiant Alina smiled. You did it? You brought the station back from the brink. Marcus shook his head, the weight of the moment sinking in. It wasn't just me. It was all of us using what humans do best, adapting, improvising, making the impossible work. Celine added, they underestimated the value of hands-on problem solving. Alien technology is advanced, but they lack our unpredictability. As the station stabilized, the team uncovered hidden Chthon remnants embedded deep within the systems. But thanks to Marcus's manual override, those traps were now isolated and neutralized. The Chthons had planned for machines to fail. They hadn't counted on human creativity. Alina turned to Marcus. This changes everything. We can't rely solely on technology. We need to trust our instincts and skills. Marcus glanced once more at his pen, the simple tool that had caused disaster but also sparked salvation. In a galaxy dominated by advanced AI and alien warships, it was a human touch, a human mind that made all the difference. The Aegis 1 station was back online, but it was fragile, barely a shadow of its former self. The manual overrides had bought precious time, but the Chthon threat loomed larger than ever. Their next move was unclear, and the clock was ticking. Marcus paced the command center of the Valiant mind, racing with ideas. The alien sabotage was sophisticated, but it was also designed with limits. It couldn't anticipate human creativity, especially when pushed under pressure. Captain Celine said, approaching him with a data tablet. Our scans show multiple concealed access points inside the station. The Chthons could still activate traps remotely. Marcus frowned. Then we have to disable them manually. That means sending people inside. Elena's voice cut in. A boarding party. Dangerous, but necessary. Marcus nodded. I'll lead it. The crew prepared for the mission with quiet determination. They donned reinforced suits, packed tools, and reviewed the station's labyrinthine layout. Every step inside Aegis 1 was a dance with danger-damaged corridors, unstable power conduits, and the constant threat of hidden sabotage. As the boarding party entered the station, the eerie silence was overwhelming. The vast halls that once thrummed with life were now shadows, lit only by emergency lights. Every corner held uncertainty. Marcus moved carefully, relying on his intimate knowledge of the station's design. His pen, now clipped to his suit pocket, was both a reminder and a tool. Not just for writing, but for picking locks, resetting circuits, and sometimes just steadying his nerves. Their first target was a control hub deep within the station's core, where they suspected the Chthons had planted a series of trigger devices. Marcus approached the central console, fingers dancing over analog switches and physical wiring. "This is where their code lives," he muttered. "And where we'll kill it." With steady hands, he began dismantling the electronic traps, replacing sabotaged modules with jury-rigged hardware crafted back on the Valiant. Each piece was a victory proof that human hands could undo what alien minds had built. But the station fought back. A sudden surge sent sparks flying from the ceiling. Alarms blared, and the floor trembled beneath their feet. "Trap triggered." One of the crew shouted. "Move." Marcus barked, guiding his team through twisting corridors as systems failed around them. The pressure mounted, but Marcus stayed calm, thinking several steps ahead. When the power flickered and a hatch sealed shut, he grabbed his pen, using it to manually override the lock's mechanism. Delicate process requiring patience and precision. Minutes stretched as he worked. Sweat dripped down his brow. The pen, an ordinary object, had become his lifeline. Finally, the hatch hissed open. The crew escaped just as a section of the station collapsed behind them. Back on the Valiant, Marcus and the team reviewed their progress. They had disarmed several traps and restored partial control to key systems. But more remained. "Every trap we disable, they find a new one," Celine said. "It's a cat-and-mouse game." Marcus nodded, determination burning brighter. "Then, we outsmart the cat." His mind turned to unconventional ideas, using simple tools in unexpected ways, combining alien technology with human intuition, turning the station's own design against the Chrysants. "Remember," he said to his team, "they planned for machines to fail. They didn't plan for humans to fight back with creativity." The boarding party prepped for the next mission, their confidence bolstered by small victories, doubts out in the vastness of space. The Chthon fleet shifted, unaware that their carefully laid plans were unraveling one penstroke at a time. Marcus smiled to himself. Sometimes the smallest things made the biggest difference. The days aboard the Valiant had blended into a relentless cycle of analysis, repair, and strategy. Each victory in reclaiming the Aegis 1 station was met with new challenges. But Marcus and the crew were determined to reclaim what had been lost and more. One evening, in the dim glow of the command center, Marcus stared at the sprawling map of the station systems. Red markers indicated still active Chthon sabotage points. The pressure weighed heavily on everyone. But Marcus felt something shift inside him, a surge of clarity. "We've been reacting," he said quietly to Elena and Celine. "It's time to take the fight to them." Elena's eyes met his. "You mean a preemptive strike?" Marcus nodded. "Exactly. The Chthons expect us to defend, to repair, to survive. But if we can trace their control signals, find their source, we can disrupt their network and maybe their entire fleet." Celine pulled up scans. The Chthons use a decentralized control system, spread across multiple nodes hidden throughout the debris field. But there is a central command relay somewhere near the system's outer orbit. "That's our target," Marcus said. The plan was risky. It meant sending a stealth team beyond the safety of the Valiant, deep into contested space to locate and disable the relay. But it was the only way to break the chain of sabotage. Marcus volunteered to lead the mission. His experience with the station systems made him the best choice. The crew prepared a small shuttle outfitted with jamming equipment and manual override tools, the very kind Marcus had pioneered. The pen was strapped to his wrist, a constant companion as the shuttle slipped away from the Valiant. The vastness of space stretched before them, a dark ocean filled with unseen dangers. They moved silently through asteroid fields and wreckage, scanning for any sign of the relay. Time was their enemy. Each moment spent searching increased the risk of detection. Then, deep in the shadows of a shattered moon, the shuttle's sensors picked up a faint but unmistakable signal, an encrypted beacon pulsing with alien code. Marcus's heart pounded. This is it. Approaching cautiously, they found the relay, a sleek, angular construct half buried in space debris. The device emitted pulses that wove into the station's systems. Controlling traps and disruptions, Marcus began the delicate work of manual override. His hands moved with precision, guided by instinct and hours of practice. The pen, simple and unassuming, helped him manipulate tiny connectors and reset circuits. Minutes ticked by like hours. The shuttle's systems hummed as Marcus bypassed layers of encryption. Suddenly, alarms blared on the relay. Defensive drones activated, closing. In fast, brace for impact. Marcus shouted. The shuttle's pilot veered sharply, evading laser blasts. Marcus ignored the chaos, focused on his task. With a final twist, the override clicked into place. The relay powered down, silent, dark. The ship's sensors confirmed the effect. Signals controlling the station's sabotage points flickered and vanished. A cheer erupted from the crew as the shuttle pulled away. Racing back to the Valiant, back aboard the ship, Alina greeted them with a relieved smile. You did it. The sabotage network is collapsing. Marcus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction, but remained wary. This might buy us time, but the Crithans won't give up easily. Celine nodded. True, but now we have an advantage, a chance to strike before they regroup. The crew worked around the clock to repair the station using the breathing room Marcus's mission had created. Systems came back online, corridors lit with steady light, and the hum of life returned. But the greatest victory was the renewed confidence. Humanity had faced a hidden enemy and fought back with grit, brains, and the courage to take bold risks as the Valiant prepared for what came next. Marcus looked at his pen, now worn but still shining. It had been the spark of destruction and, now, a symbol of hope. The war was far from over, but for the first time, the tide was turning. With the Crithon relay disabled, the Aegis 1 station began to breathe again. Systems hummed steadily. Lights glowed warmly in corridors once cold and dark, and the endless warnings and alarms faded into silence. Yet beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. The Crithons would not sit idle while their sabotage network crumbled. Marcus knew that more than technology would decide the outcome of this conflict. It was the human element, the unpredictable spark of creativity, intuition, and courage that gave humanity an edge no alien code could anticipate. One afternoon, as the Valiant orbited the station, a new transmission arrived. A challenge from the Crithons. Their message was Clearon's invitation to face off in a tactical duel. Not of fleets and firepower, but of strategy and wits. Alina gathered the command staff. They want to test us to see if we're worthy opponents. Marcus smiled, a mix of excitement and respect in his eyes. This is the kind of fight we excel at. They expect machines to dominate. But humans? Celine nodded. We've turned their own technology against them. Now it's time to show them the human edge. The battle would not be fought with weapons, but with code, commands, and countermeasures. Both sides would deploy autonomous drones and digital agents, each programmed to outmaneuver the other. But it was the human operators behind the controls who made the real difference. Marcus took his place in the command center, surrounded by crew members trained to think like adversaries, anticipating the Chthon's moves. The first wave of Chthon drones entered the system, sleek and fast, armed with disruptive EMP pulses designed to cripple defenses. The Valiant's automated systems struggled to respond. Marcus leaned forward. "Switch to manual override. Let's outthink them." Crew shifted gears, manually guiding defense drones with tactics learned from years of training and a touch of human unpredictability. Instead of straightforward evasions, they used feints, baited traps, and coordinated maneuvers. One drone dodged a pulse by executing an abrupt Tate, unpredictable spin, something no way I had anticipated. "Nice," Marcus muttered as the skirmish intensified. Marcus's team hacked into the Chthon's command signals, injecting false data and confusing their drones. The tide began to turn. Hours passed in a blur of strategy, adaptation, and quick thinking. The Chthons launched increasingly desperate tactics, decoys, signal jammers, even psychological attempts to unsettle the crew. But the humans held firm. Elena's voice broke through the tension. "We're holding them off. More than that, we're dominating." At the heart of the battle, Marcus saw the truth. Machines could calculate and predict, but they lacked creativity, empathy, and the chaotic spark of human thought. The Chthons, despite their advanced technology, couldn't grasp the subtlety of human decision-making. When the final wave of drones faltered and retreated, the command center erupted in quiet cheers. Elena stood, voice calm but resolute. "They underestimated us. They thought we'd rely on machines alone. They were wrong." Marcus picked up his pen, tracing patterns on the console. That pen destroyed a station. But it also reminded us of who we are. Celine smiled. "We've proven that human ingenuity can rewrite the rules of it against superior technology." The Chthon's retreat was not just a tactical defeat. It was a lesson one that rippled through their fleets and commanders. Humanity was no longer an unknown threat. They were a force to be reckoned with as the Valiant prepared to resume its mission. Marcus looked at the stars beyond the viewport. The war was far from over, but the human edge was sharper than ever. In a universe ruled by cold logic and advanced tech, it was the warmth of human spirit that made all the difference. The Chthon fleet had retreated, their once threatening presence reduced to a shadow lurking at the edge of the system. For the first time in months, the Aegis I station stood stable, its lights shining as a beacon of human resilience. The Valiant's crew gathered in the command center, exhaustion mingling with relief and cautious hope. Marcus sat quietly, the pen still clipped to his wrist, worn but intact. It had been the unlikely key to survival, destruction, and ultimately, salvation. The pen symbolized more than just a tool. It represented humanity's stubborn refusal to be outmatched. Elena approached him. "We've won a battle, but this war has only just begun. The Chthons won't forget what happened here." Marcus nodded. "No, but now they know we're not so easily broken. They learned that human creativity can turn the tide, that even the smallest things like a pen can change everything." Celine joined them, eyes bright with determination. "We've rebuilt the station. We've reclaimed control, but it's time to think bigger, to prepare for whatever comes next." The team worked tirelessly to strengthen the station's defenses, integrating human ingenuity with recovered alien tech. Manual overrides were no longer an emergency fallback, but a core part of the system, proof that sometimes old and new had to work hand in hand. A new chapter was dawning, not just for the Aegis I station or the Valiant, but for humanity's. Place in the galaxy, news of the human victory spread across the stars, inspiring hope among scattered colonies and stations. The Chthons, once seen as an unstoppable force, now faced a foe who could outthink and outlast them. Marcus found himself reflecting on how everything had started with a pen, an ordinary object that became extraordinary in the right hands. The pen had caused destruction, but had also sparked innovation, courage, and unity. As the crew prepared for their next mission, to explore further into Chthon territory and safeguard other vulnerable outposts, stood on the observation deck. Looking out at the vastness of space, the stars were silent witnesses to humanity's fight. They shimmered with promise, challenges, and the endless unknown. A new dawn was rising, fueled by the indomitable human spirit, no matter how advanced the enemy. No matter the technology they wielded, humanity had proven one unshakable truth. Creativity, courage, and a simple pen could change the course of history, and that was only the beginning.